I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker, and just give me a second here. I'd like to welcome Gabrielle Richards. She graduated from Mercersburg in 2003 and received her bachelor's in economics from Dickinson College and a master's in fashion from Drexel University. She is a senior brand manager for Shapermint with over 10 years of strategic marketing experience. She describes herself as a dedicated team player with a scrappy attitude and a thrive for success. I had the opportunity to meet with her just for a little bit prior to this. I think we're in store for some really cool and exciting stories, and I'm really looking forward to it. So Gabrielle, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I first want to say thank you all for joining us. I know it's Super Bowl. I had no idea prior, but I'm really excited to be sharing my story with you all. I love Mercersburg. I tell everyone that it literally was the best 4 years of my life. It was life-changing, and it is and will always be a second home for me. So I'm excited to share this presentation with you all today. So my topic, let me just share my screen. 1 second. Okay, you guys could all see it. So my topic for you all today is choosing a career path aligned with your personal mission. So I know that sounds really deep and complex, but it's gonna make total sense, I promise, okay? Like Chris mentioned earlier, I am class of 2003. I joined Mercersburg. Wait, okay, there we go. I want to say just a few years ago. I'm a curvy fashion and body positive advocate. I was born and raised in Jamaica, Queens, and I currently live in Miami, Florida. I'm a brand marketing executive, digital thought leader, and a business owner. So I currently work for a company called Shapermint. It's an online marketplace where we sell undies, leggings, camis, everyday essentials to make women feel comfortable in the skin that they're in. Again, I am a body positive advocate, and that is my true north. And my passion has always been to be immersed in an industry where I'm able to make women feel confident and love who they are, because again, I'm deeply passionate about that. So some of the brands that I've worked with over the years have been Eloquii, Evereve, Black Bride, Antique Virgin Hair Extensions, Chic Soul, The Curvy Fashionista, 1-800-Flowers.com, True Religion, Revelry, and these are just to name a few. Some of these companies I've worked for through a marketing capacity, others I've worked for as an influencer, which thinking back in 2003, I don't even think influencer was a thing.
Gabrielle,
Mhm.
I'm just not sorry to interrupt. Your presentation on our end is still loading for some reason.
Oh,
It's
it
not.
is? Oh, no. Okay.
I think, well, at least it is on my screen. Is it on other people's screen?
It
Okay.
was on my screen too.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Share
Sorry, Gabrielle.
screen.
I was just messaging somebody. Wait, is it on my end?
Okay, 1 second, 1 second. You know, Zoom always does this, right? Okay. Okay, exit.
And I also reclaimed the host just to see when you were presenting if there was anyone who was in the waiting room. I didn't want you to have to do that, but you should still be able to share.
Okay. So can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm using my second screen, so you guys are gonna see me shaking my head like this. I am paying attention, I promise. Okay. So did you guys see this slide?
I would go right back to the beginning.
Oh, okay, so let's start over. Again, this presentation for those of you who just joined is called Choosing a Career Path Aligned with Your Personal Mission. And I am Mercersburg alum class of 2003. And this quote at the top, and I'm glad we're actually doing a reverse because I didn't address it. And this is a quote that I actually learned while at Mercersburg. Those who have the will to win cannot be beat. And this will make a lot more sense throughout the presentation, but I played lacrosse at Mercersburg and we used to chant this every single game. And it is something that I live by, okay? All right, so again, some of the brands that I've worked with was Evereve, Spanx, True Religion, Revelry. So some of these were through a marketing, branding capacity, others as an influencer. And again, back in 2003, social media wasn't even a thing. Believe it or not, guys, Facebook didn't start until the year after I graduated from Mercersburg. So there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram. We literally had like a blue book with everyone's names in it and their photos, and you would call their phone number to their room phone. So that was what our Facebook was, okay? But somebody, you know, we know who that person was, they decided to digitize it, and now they're like super, super wealthy. Go to the next screen. So I've had the pleasure of doing these things called photo sessions. And so I, looking back, would have never thought that I would be able to share my creativity and my love of fashion by actually being a model. Growing up, I, you know, was told that I'm too short, I'm too curvy. It just wasn't something that I thought I can do ever. And these are just some examples of what I've been able to accomplish between 2019 and 2020. Photo shoots that were, you know, sponsored by brands, photo shoots that I, you know, self-produced. So it's just one of those things of, if you want to do something, do it. Don't let anyone tell you that you are incapable or unworthy, okay? So this is a throwback pic to when I played squash at Mercersburg, and this is me right here. I don't know if you guys still have these courts, but this was, again, I think in what, 2000, 2001. And Chris Vink, I'm not sure if he's still with you guys. All right, so in order for me to explain what my personal mission is in relations to my career path, I have to take you guys down memory lane. So this started for me all the way back in junior high school. Again, I'm from New York, and I was a huge nerd. I was salutatorian in elementary school and received an opportunity to go to a specialized junior high school in Manhattan. And so just to paint a picture, that was a 2-hour commute via bus and train every day. I would wake up at 5 a.m. It was a group of 4 of us, and I think we were like 11, 12 years old, commuting to the city so we could literally have a better education. And that junior high school specialized in the math and sciences. And when I was at Isaac Newton, that's the name of the school, I joined a program called A Better Chance. So this program is a scholarship program which they help basically inner city youth receive a opportunity to go to a private boarding/day school, which is how I ended up at Mercersburg. Okay, and that's me right there. So when I started my life journey at Mercersburg, it was a world unknown and uncomfortably perfect. I want to say my first day there, I was incredibly scared. It was a place where I never felt, so again, coming from New York, where, you know, it's super, super diverse, and then coming to Mercersburg, where it's just, you know, a few of women or people, a small, very small portion of you who look like you. And I was very intimidated by that. It took me about 2 weeks to get over it, because I realized that I was the one making myself feel uncomfortable. But it became a family for me, between the faculty, the staff, the students. We were all very close knit. And the great thing about Mercersburg, and I believe you guys still have this policy, everyone's allowed to try out for a sport, right? Whether you're good or not. And I was the or not. So I played volleyball, squash, and lacrosse. And volleyball, it was not a strong suit, but I just loved being a part of a team. And I loved the girls that I played with. So, I was on JV for 3 years, and then, you automatically upgrade to varsity your senior year. But squash, oddly enough, I was good at, and it really helped to develop eye-hand coordination for me. And then during that winter season, I overheard girls in my dorm who said that they were going to Florida for spring break. And I knew I was just going to be going back home to Queens for spring break, and Florida sounded like fun. So I, asked them, okay, how are you guys going to Florida? Fill me in. And they explained that they were part of the lacrosse team. Now, I had no idea what lacrosse was, never heard of it before, but I knew I wanted to go to spring break. So, of course, I signed up for the team, and I wasn't the best runner and I wasn't that athletic. And so, my coach, they were like, okay, do you want to be the goalie? Because nobody else wants to be the goalie. And I was like, okay. But luckily enough, from me playing volleyball to then playing squash, I developed really great hand-eye coordination and was naturally good at being a goalie. And that really blossomed for me. And it was a sport that I loved so dearly. And that's when that quote, those who have the will to win cannot be beat. And we would literally have meditation sessions before big games, which is the beauty of being in a private school. We had a meditation coach who would come in, and they would have us visualize success right before the game. And they would tell us, okay, close your eyes, see yourself. And in my case, I was the goalie, see yourself saving that shot, see yourself starting the first line of offense. And I really felt like when I was in that game, I would transform, and it was an outer body experience where I was really good by accident, if that makes any sense. And from my career playing lacrosse at Mercersburg, it helped me to walk on to the Dickinson lacrosse team, which I started as their goalie all 4 years. I became captain my senior year, and I still hold records to this day of the most saves, which again is insane because I was not the most athletic person. I was competing against women who had been playing lacrosse since the age of 7, but I had that determination of that I wanted to succeed, and all of that willpower and that ambition I had to attribute to being at Mercersburg, in terms of having this like very vigorous work-life balance in terms of going to school throughout the day, then going to practice right after, then going to dinner. I had that same type of schedule when I was in college. So for those of you all who are currently at Mercersburg and you have this like very strict schedule and you're wondering like, why do I have to go to class at this time? Why do I have to go to bed at this time? It has really helped me in present day and even in my career be able to multitask and handle several different things at once without feeling that pressure. So everything that you're learning now at Mercersburg, I promise you will make sense when you get into your career path, okay? And I was not paid to say this to you all, by the way. All right, so let me go back to the Dickinson side. So while I was at Dickinson, besides being a student athlete, because I was at a D3 school, it's not like we were going to the Olympics, even though we felt like we were. I majored in economics and I minored in Spanish because at the time I wanted to become a corporate lawyer. I'm the first generation to go to college, and that holds a lot of weight, right? You got to have a real serious career when you're talking to your parents. So it's whether you're going to be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. Those are the only 3 options. I never once considered having a career outside of that. And it wasn't until I studied abroad in Spain. It was my junior year. I lived in Malaga for 6 weeks and I was immersed with the fashion and the beauty, and everybody just seemed so happy and it was so colorful. And I was walking around with my LSAT book because I was supposed to be studying. And I was just like, this is not I just don't see myself becoming a lawyer. I really wanted to become a lawyer because I loved the movie Legally Blonde and I thought Elle Woods was cool, but I couldn't tell my parents that, right? They would have thought I was insane. So when I went back home, I had like 2 more weeks left of the summer. And then I went back to Dickinson and I spoke to my lacrosse coaches, which, I was still super, super close with, and kind of explained, what I was feeling in terms of my career path and, just feeling a bit hesitant on what my next steps should be. And I remember we were walking a 3 mile for charity. And one of my coaches, she had just gotten accepted into a program at Drexel and for a master's for fashion. And she said, I think this might be something you should consider. You're the most fashionable goalie I've ever met. And so to paint the picture, I would come to practice with this silk scarf on because I wanted to protect my hair underneath this bulky helmet. And I would have this like lavish mat where I would change and, put all my equipment on. And, it was no secret that fashion was really my passion. But I just, again, I didn't take it serious because I felt like someone like me, someone who looked like me, couldn't have that type of career path. And I decided to take a risk and I applied to Drexel. And one of the professors, she asked for me to come in for a interview. And now this program at Drexel, they accept a few students who are just a bit unique, who've never, dabbled into fashion ever. But, a few of those art classes that you're required to take at Mercersburg, that kind of paid off for me because I discovered I was able to illustrate. So I was able to throw together this like quick portfolio of just my illustrations. And so that, in addition to my personal passion of making women feel good in the skin that they're in, because again, at that time, I didn't see curvy women being featured on magazine covers or, being spokespersons for big companies. And so I explained to her, I wanted to go to fashion school because I wanted to create fashion or create garments for women that looked like me and my mom. And, growing up, trying on different wardrobes and things like that, it was very difficult to find things that looked good on me. Okay. And again, I was always curvy and super athletic, but I wasn't an ideal type of Vogue looking model. Okay. And so she was really stoked about my personal mission and she admitted me. I got accepted. And I called my mom. I said, hey, I'm going to be the next Louis Vuitton, so I'm not going to law school. And and that convinced her. She said, okay, well, I like Louis Vuitton. Okay, go to law school. We trust your decisions. You were the one who applied to Mercersburg. You got in. You really had a good head on your shoulders. So we support your decision. We won't support you financially though. So this is where real world meets real sacrifices and hard truths. So when I was at Mercersburg and at Dickinson, you were able to charge everything home. I don't know if that's still the case at Mercersburg, if you guys could still charge things home, but I was able to charge my books home, cookies, gummy bears, everything. At Drexel, I had to get a job while I was there. So my first year I coached Division I lacrosse. I was their goalie coach, which was a lot of fun, but it was really hard to juggle their aggressive schedule with my fashion schedule because again, design school is like Project Runway every single day, except you're paying for all of your materials, okay? And so while at Drexel, I started to work retail because it was way more a flexible schedule for me and it allowed me to stay up all night and finish my patterns and all of that. So Drexel is a huge engineering school. So their fashion program is also structured that way where they teach you everything from pattern making to CAD design to illustrating your concepts. And it was an incredible 3 years, but it was like very, very, for me to like sum it up, it was a real world experience, okay? So after Drexel, I graduated in 2010, I'm sorry, and it was during the recession. And my dreams of being Louis Vuitton was crushed. I was applying to a lot of different fashion houses and I had moved back to New York at the time because that's the place you need to be if you want to have a career in fashion, and no one was hiring. And so I continued to work retail and then dabble in a lot of different internships, which I will say to you all, interning is so, so important because A, it helps for you to figure out exactly what you want to do in life, and B, it allows you to know what you don't like, right? So I had internships at MTV where I worked in the wardrobe department with TRL. Again, I don't know if you guys know about TRL, but that was our jam, okay? They would drop new videos and there was VJs on there. It was so exciting. So I styled the VJs for that summer and most of them were men. And it was during that time where I realized I had a gift of gab, and I was able to convince people to do things that they didn't really feel comfortable in terms of fashion choices, right? So I had this one guy, Sway, some of you guys may know of him, where he felt a bit uncomfortable in a certain look. And I was like, I really think you should put this on. I think, you're really gonna pull it off. And after he wore it, he came back, he's like, you're an intern, but you know what you're talking about, right? So that gave me the confidence I needed to continue to pursue this career in fashion. I had the epiphany, though, that traditional fashion in terms of pattern making and sewing garments, maybe that wasn't the path that I needed to take, because again, I have this gift of gab. I love networking. I love being around people, and I love branding and marketing, but I didn't know what it was called, right, at that time. And so I interned with a PR agency and realized that I loved it and I needed to have a career within PR marketing. So while I was working retail, I went to this company called Indique Hair, and they sell premium hair extensions, which back then in 2010, there weren't really any freestanding boutiques that offered that type of product. And at that time, when I went to Indique, we had 2 locations. One in Boston and one in New York City. So I interned at Indique and was still working my full-time retail job to make ends meet, because I'm a struggling artist. And quickly, shortly after, about 3 months into me interning, I was hired as a marketing associate, and it was for a startup. And so this is when a lot of startups are starting to come up, and it's fun, and it's literally like business school, like crammed into a 9 to 5. And I learned so much from branding, marketing, learning about real estate and all of that, because we started to open more locations while I was there. So I was with that company for 10 years. And by the time I left, I was the brand manager for Indique, and we went from 2 locations to 16 throughout the United States and 2 in South Africa. And it was a company where I was able to make women feel beautiful and confident every single day. We did a lot of charity where we would give back to women who were battling cancer, because again, it's hair extensions. So we would supply these beautiful wigs, we would do makeovers, and then for the more glam part of things, we would participate in New York Fashion Week every year, where we would supply the hair for fashion houses like the Blondes, for example. So it was so much fun and so exciting, but I know if you really want to expand in your career, sometimes you gotta leave, right? So in every phase, I discovered that my true north was always there. And the more that we experience life, the easier it is for you to figure out your likes and your dislikes. So I knew immediately I like making women feel good, right? But I love fashion. So I needed to find my way back there. Working in beauty was great, but I needed to find my way back into working in an industry where I actually have a say in fashion. And so if you're trying to figure out how your career path can be aligned with your personal mission, I have a few questions that I've prepared that I ask myself every single year, because you got to check back in to understand if you're still on the path of what you want, right? So the first question is, what fulfills me? What makes me happy? Like, really, if you had to think about that right now, and I know some of you guys, you're in high school right now, and some of you may be saying, okay, I already know what I want to be. I have it figured out. And some of you may have no clue, and that's okay. To be completely transparent, I'm 35 years old, and every so often I'm like, am I on the right path? Am I doing what I really said I want to do? And that's okay, right? So what fulfills me? What makes me happy? Am I happy? If I'm not, what is it? How can I switch gears? And do I have a support system that can help me in that natural, progression to something new? Okay. The second question is, where do I picture myself? Okay. And this is important too when you're deciding on what college you want to go to. Okay. Whether you want it to be big, small. Okay. Do you like the grass? Do you love the environment of Mercersburg? Do you want something that's more metropolitan? That's the same when you're looking for a career or a company to work for, right? Are you in a large corporation? Are you at a boutique firm? Like, do you want to be Elle Woods and Legally Blonde? Those are important questions to ask yourself. And more importantly, nowadays, do you want to work for yourself? Entrepreneurship is at an all-time high. And just because you want to be an entrepreneur doesn't mean you don't have to have a traditional 9 to 5. For me, I work my 9 to 5 at Shapermint. I own my own essential oils company called Aroma P, and I am a digital thought leader. Some will call it an influencer, but you literally can be what you want to be. There's no limitations on that, okay? And then another question is, what does success look like? Is it career advancement? Is it money? Is it freedom? I mean, a large part, and like when I started my career, money didn't move me, right? But until I needed to live, I realized I needed more money. Okay. So my parents said, hey, you're the one with these fancy degrees. You got to start making more money. So it just depends on, what that type of success looks like for you, because money doesn't necessarily equal happiness and it doesn't necessarily equal success, right? And then the last question is, does it feel like work? So when your career path aligns with your personal mission, it shouldn't feel like work. So let me dial that back a bit. If you are working a career where you love the people you're working with and you love the mission of what they stand for, and it aligns with your personal mission. So for example, my true north is body positivity and making women feel confident in their skin that they're in. And at any moment where I feel like my job doesn't align with that, then I know I need to pivot and go to something else where I can still feel that type of fulfillment. So again, for you guys, if you're making your transition, even while you're in high school, if you're playing a sport or you're in theater or whatever, and it's just not really answering what your mission is or your truth is, then it's okay to switch gears, right? So again, as you excel in your career, it's always important to reflect on your why. Ask the questions and keep the responses in a journal. So I've always kept a digital journal for myself where I create a private Pinterest board, and I'll put, it's kind of like a vision board. You put things up there of what you love, what you're into, and then I'll reflect on it the next year and say, did I still want a yacht? Okay, let me take that off because that's just not realistic for me right now. I don't really want that. But it's okay to dream big. Okay, because the sky is the limit. Do not set any limitations to what your success can look like, because if these last few years hasn't been an example of what we all can accomplish, to having like the first woman and the White House as a vice president. Like, if that doesn't look like success, then I don't know what is, right? So that's all I have for you guys. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question.
Hi, Tommy.
Yes. Do you believe that following your dreams can often blind people from opportunities that are presented to them? And if so, why?
That's a really great question, actually. I will say, following your dreams, some people, there's going to be a different route. You could go from A to C to G and then get to Z. So it's not always going to be a linear path to success. And I will say, as you're young, that's your time to do a lot of different things. So if your dream is, let's say you want to be an astronaut, right? But you have this really cool opportunity to do this internship with this great company and it has nothing to do with astronomy, do it. Because the way that you would continue to figure out if you are on your path for success or you're following your dream is to figure out what you don't like. And the only way to do that is to do a lot of different things all the time. Okay. I hope that answered your question, because it was a deep question. It was a good one.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I got a question from the chat. It says, how important was your support system, family, friends for you throughout your life? My support system was very, very, very important. Again, to be completely transparent, coming from Jamaica, Queens, to Mercersburg Academy, it was tough, being away from home. It was very, very difficult on my first few weeks, but I had my advisor who became like a second mom to me, and she would constantly check in to see how I was doing, how I was thriving. But every time I would call my mom and just hear her say, I'm proud of you, even to this day, like if I'm doing a live on Facebook or Instagram, she'll watch the whole thing and she'll be commenting. And then as soon as it ends, she calls me and she's like, I'm so proud of you. You're going to be like Oprah. So she's literally been my like biggest supporter throughout the years. And it's very, very important. I always tell people, you are as strong as your tribe. So it's important to have a good group of people, whether they're your family, your friends, that you can always count on to help keep you in check, right? Because sometimes you may be doing something that this doesn't seem right. And they could say, okay, listen, you need to fall back in line. Or someone who's always going to give you, a high five, right? You need that, because in this digital age, I will say with social media, it can be very challenging to not compare yourselves with others. And I'm so guilty of it, right? Looking at Instagram and just seeing like all the great things that people are doing, and you're constantly comparing. Once you are able to check back into your tribe, your support system, and they tell you, girl, you're good, you're doing great, like log off of Instagram, I think that's been incredibly important for me. Any other questions?
I have one.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Chris, and then I have one too.
All right. So I'm like completely amazed at your story in the sense of, and this might surprise you students, what I know about the fashion industry, but I know a lot, is the fashion industry is so brutal, and it is so difficult, particularly if you are, you're trying to create your own line and all these different things. And like your story is a great example of, you just kept going and like you kept trying different things and finding different avenues. And did you have low moments, or was it just kind of like that positive inner talk that like, what was the energy that really kept you pushing forward and because it's such a hard, and people are not friendly either in that industry in any form or fashion. So
Not at all.
I would love to just know, like, to talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of us in our in kids too right now, it's hard for us to persevere, and so I'd love to hear a little bit about that perseverance that you had.
Sure.
Sure.
That's a great question. Fashion is brutal, and fashion school was brutal. And it wasn't, I love to tell people, like, Mercersburg, you're living in this happy bubble, right? And then you leave and you're like, wait, the world isn't perfect like Mercersburg. But Drexel, it's a great school and the professors are amazing, but they painted a pretty accurate picture of what, the fashion world was going to look like once we left. A lot of hard truths, a lot of, taking scissors and cutting up your designs. And, my confidence was completely broken when I left design school. And it took me a few years to actually pick myself up. And it was my time at Indique that helped. And it was through me seeing the smiles on women's faces as I, again, was helping them feel confident. But I will say it was this like, this message in my head that said that I had to continue. Why? Because all of me waking up at 5 a.m. and traveling to the city at 11 and going to summer school and Saturday school so I could get into the program for a better chance, or playing lacrosse with no one else that looked like me, and And, always I felt like I had to defend, my place in the world, my place in society. And I also knew that I couldn't let my parents down, right? So, my dad, he worked 2 jobs. And even though I was on scholarship at Mercersburg, he worked 2 jobs to make sure I was able to go and not feel that I couldn't fit in, right? So I had the Gap khakis like everyone else, and so every time I felt like I wanted to quit and I just wanted to, find a job in finance, I said, no, this is the path that I chose. It's not easy, and I need to just, pick up the pieces of my confidence and just continue, right? Because, you know, I always say fake it until you make it. So every day I had the smile on my face, I had some blush on, and I put my best foot forward, right? Because at Mercersburg, and I think this is a really good thing that you guys do, is that you guys tell us every single day that we're special, right? And that's important. So I knew deep down that I'm special, I'm going to succeed. Don't know when I'm going to see the success, but I know it's going to happen. And I have my family who's depending on me, and not necessarily financially, but, I was supposed to be that golden child, that one that was going to make it big. And so that is a lot of pressure. But I just knew I didn't have a choice, if that makes any sense.
It does. And thank you very much for sharing that.
Yes, thank you, Gabrielle, for your stories and your humor. I love it. Made me laugh and smile many times. So I'm curious if you could just talk a little bit more about social media, because you've touched on it throughout your talk.
Yeah.
Facebook didn't exist until the year after you graduated from Mercersburg. And then now I can't remember, forgive me for the term you used, which was, you said it was an influencer, digital.
Yeah. Digital thought leader. Sounds fancy.
I know, I love it. Digital thought leader. So how do you balance that with the stuff when you when you recognize, you have your tribe telling you, check out, get off Instagram. So how do you balance
Yeah.
that in your life?
That's a great question. Early on, when I decided that I wanted to show my creativity and my love of fashion through my own self as my own model, it was a lot of work. And I don't think people realize the work that goes into it, where I was literally having photo shoots every weekend, right, with a photographer. I would have clothes in my car, I would change in the bathroom, and, I would bring accessories to change up my hair so it looked like the shots were different. And it was very, very tough, but I just felt like I needed to showcase this. And then because I already worked in branding and marketing, I already knew the tools I needed to make it work, right? So, I'll get my photos and make sure they're high res, I'll put them on my social, but then I have to have a really good caption. And this is where me being a copywriter too for so many years comes in. What I realized is that people really cared more about when I was a little bit more real, and I would give longer form content of why I'm posting this photo, or why it's okay for me to be on a beach and have cellulite. That's okay. And so it allowed me to not take it too seriously, not take myself too seriously. And I will say, the pandemic has allowed a lot of people like me who, post on social media quite often, to take a step back and reevaluate what is important, right? And so if you do follow me on social, you see I don't post as frequently as I did before. I make sure it's a bit more strategic. I know now that I have a platform, and it's important of what I'm posting, and I know who I want looking at my stuff. So I know that I have my nieces looking at me. I'm that cool auntie. And, I need to be as authentic as possible. And sure, do I want to do some of those fun TikTok challenges? Yeah. Do I have time for that? No, because I have bills to pay. So it's like, you got to balance that out. And at the end of the day, I had to understand, like, what was I really doing it for? Like, in the beginning, it was cool to receive free stuff, but again, once the pandemic hit, and then the Black Lives Matter movement happened, and I saw that there was real hurt out there. Nobody cares that I got a free lipstick. Like, nobody cares about that, and it's not worthy for me to post right now at this moment. But what do they care about me? Me helping people to register to vote. Like, that's something people would care about. So it really helped me to align on what was important, what wasn't important. And I think it allowed the entire world to take a pause and say, okay, you know, being tuned in all the time digitally is just not that important. Being with your family, Zooming with your family, FaceTiming with your family, that's more important digitally than posting on social.
I love that. Thank you. And I especially love how you are constantly checking in with your personal mission in everything that you do. So that's inspiring.
Yeah.
Any other questions? The trick is to wait 17 seconds.
Oh, I will want to say, I forgot this. I am
Yes.
Marshall. So,
Oh, interesting.
okay. I see some people shaking their heads, but Marshall. That's why I wore blue today, not just Mercersburg colors. Thank you guys so much. I really had a great time. I said earlier to Chris and Jen that I was super nervous, but it was really great to, you know, share my story. And I just hope that 10, 15 years from now, like my story is even bigger and I'm doing more good out there. So thank you. And guys, feel free to reach out to me. They can share my personal info with you guys. Feel free to ask me any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend or end of the weekend and week ahead. Take care.
Good night, everybody. Thank you,
Good night.
Gabrielle.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Gab.